Hitting an all-time high, a new ABC News Washington Post poll shows President Trump reaching a career high approval rating of 44%. Experts pointing to a strong economy and record job growth as the reason. Here now to discuss is Art Laffer, former Reagan economic advisor. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, I keep hearing this headline.
Thank you, Melissa.
And then in the next breath, everybody says we have a recession every 10 years, and so we're due for one. What do you say to that?
I don't think they're right on the recession. The one thing that amazes me is Trump's ratings are very, very high. They've risen, but I don't understand why they're 44%. They should be 94%. I mean, honestly, this economy is amazing. He's done a job with deregulation. He's done a job with tax cuts. He's done a job with all factors in this economy, and it's just an amazing performance, especially given on the base that he inherited from the Obama administration. This was no easy pull to get this economy to grow the way it has. And now with the market up so much, Melissa, this year, it portends to be a much higher growth in the future as well. So I am very pleased for the economy, and I think Trump deserves great ratings for what he's done.
So the president thinks the market could be a lot higher. Here's what he had to say about that.
If we had a Fed that would lower interest rates, would be like a rocket ship. But we're paying a lot of interest, and it's unnecessary, but we don't have a Fed that knows what they're doing.
Okay, so this is kind of funny because, of course, before he was critical of the Fed for juicing the Obama market. And empirically, you know, when you looked at it, that's what was, you know, low interest rates, very low rates from the Fed, were driving the market through the Obama time, and it created a bigger wealth gap between, you know, people who were invested in the market and people weren't. And that sort of thing. So to kind of hear him say that now, I don't know. What do you think about his assessment?
Well, you know, I think the Fed should be lowering interest rates, not because he says so, although he has a perfect right to say so. It's because the Fed follows interest rates. It doesn't lead them. And interest rates have dropped very sharply in recent months. And the Fed should be following suit by lowering its rates as well. That's what they've done historically. And why they've broken with tradition is beyond me. But when you look at the president and the Fed, if I may, I've been dealing with this now for 50 years. I was in the Nixon White House from 1970 to 72 as George Shultz's economist. And, you know, the Fed has been battling the administration forever, and this is just a classic continuation. My view is the Fed shouldn't be independent. I mean, the president should have control over all the tools available to make a good economy. He and the legislative branch have been elected. The Fed has not been elected. It's a clear violation of democracy. But that having been said, I think interest rates should be lower. And I think in the long run, that'll be good for the economy. It's an amazing economy right now, Melissa.
Art, wait a second. That is a terrifying thought to me, to have the executive branch in charge of the Fed. I mean, you know, what if there was a group in there that wanted to raise the heck out of interest rates or didn't understand, you know, the economy or numbers at all? We've certainly seen administrations like that didn't seem to have a wonderful grasp on math. I don't know. That's really scary to me, Art.
Well, let me do scary with you. I mean, you're completely right. Bad policy is bad policy, whether it's from an independent Fed or from the executive or from the legislative branch. But I'll tell you, back in the day, it was Arthur Burns, who was head of the Fed, independent head of the Fed, who talked Nixon and forced Nixon into doing wage and price controls for the U.S., which was just horrible at the time. The bad policy at the bad time, it caused enormous damage to the U.S. economy. And he was the independent chairman of the Fed. So, you know, bad policies can come from both sides. The one thing that's true, though, is that the Fed does not have any accountability to the electorate. That's really the problem. I mean, imagine if we had an independent military authority that had a board of people, professors from Princeton University, determining what our sanctions should be on Iran, what our military spending should be, what we should be doing with North Korea. Isn't that a little terrifying, with no recourse whatsoever to the electorate? I mean, you know, if you're going to blame the guy or credit the guy with the economy, you should at least give him the tools to do the job. And that's what I think we should do with Trump, is give him the tools to do the job. But if he doesn't do the job, that's all right. The Fed are fine people, by the way, and they're a good group of people, and they're very knowledgeable, and no harm, no problems with them. It's just that the Fed should be under the control of the executive, just like the Treasury is, just like Commerce is, just like the other branches are.
Fascinating stuff. Art Laffer, thank you.
No.
Thank you.
I'm not scaring you, really, am I, Melissa?
Well,
am I?
No,
she'll be okay, Art.
No, Colin, calm her down a little bit, Colin.
She's going to be okay.